Fernando Alonso's Formula One career began with 12th place in the 2001 Australian Grand Prix. It ended, for now at least, with 11th in Abu Dhabi 2018. In between those two races, he packed in 2 World Championships and 32 victories during stints with Minardi, Renault, McLaren and Ferrari. With just 26 car races under his belt and minimal pre-season testing, many feared Alonso might struggle to qualify for that debut in Australia. But he did so comfortably and lined up 19th, even suggesting he could have been 15th without a missed braking point on his best lap. This set the template for a season of modest results but Herculean efforts in the underdeveloped, underpowered Minardi that peaked with 17th on the grid in the United States Grand Prix, ahead of 1997 world champion Jacques Villeneuve's BAR. Despite a best finish of just 10th and 0 points, those paying close attention realised the Spaniard was a man to watch. Alonso was linked with half of the teams on the grid for a 2002 drive, but Renault team principal Flavio Briatore had taken over as Alonso's manager in November 2000 and decided to give him a year's testing at the Renault team he led. Just short of 7,500 laps of testing later, including an outing for Jaguar in May, Alonso replaced Jenson Button as teammate to Jarno Trulli in the Renault race team for 2003. It did not take Alonso long to hit big. He became the then youngest driver to take pole position for the second race of the season in Malaysia, converting it to a maiden podium finish in 3rd place. His meteoric rise continued with victory in the Hungarian Grand Prix on his way to 6th in the World Championship, although perhaps his stunning 2nd place behind Michael Schumacher in the Spanish Grand Prix was the moment he really announced his arrival as an F1 superstar, not to mention earning the devotion of his home crowd. Renault produced a bold car for 2004 that Alonso struggled to get the best out of during the first half of the season and was often outpaced by Trulli. But over the second half of the year, Alonso's more aggressive driving style paid off and he came through to 4th in the World Championship. In 2005, Alonso hit his peak and won the first of back-to-back World Championships. Renault aced the new regulations, which included a reduction in the rear diffuser and in-race tyre changes being outlawed. 3 victories in the first 4 races put him 29 points clear of title rival Kimi Raikkonen, and he went on to seal the championship with 2 races to spare. As Renault's Pat Simmons put it at the time, Alonso had only one off second, glancing the wall and retiring from the Canadian Grand Prix. Despite the rules forcing a change from 3-litre V10 to 2.4-litre V8s in 2006, as well as reintroducing tyre changes, Alonso picks up where he left off. With Ferrari back on form, Michael Schumacher ran him close, but Alonso sealed a 2nd title in the Interlagos season finale. With a move to McLaren for 2007 already agreed thanks to negotiations triggered by a brief chat with Ron Dennis ahead of the 2005 Brazilian Grand Prix podium, Alonso had the F1 world at his feet. But the McLaren switch proved ill-starred as the challenge from rookie teammate Lewis Hamilton, who he initially underestimated, led to conflict. Alonso deliberately delayed his exit from the pits during Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying to prevent Hamilton getting a final run, with the resulting 5-place grid penalty costing him pole position. The McLaren spy scandal then erupted, with both McLaren drivers then narrowly missing out on the Drivers' Championship to Kimi Raikkonen and Alonso heading for the exit after just one acrimonious season. Alonso had little choice but to return to Renault, winning the Singapore and Japanese Grand Prix in 2008, but during a winless 2009, controversy again erupted in his vicinity. The exposure of the conspiracy that led to Alonso winning in Singapore a year earlier, thanks to teammate Nelson Piquet Jr. crashing at a strategically advantageous moment, engulfed Renault in controversy, although the Spaniard was cleared of any involvement. The 28-year-old Alonso then made a move that promised to make him a legend, switching to Ferrari in place of Kimi Raikkonen. Victory on debut in Bahrain promised much after Sebastian Vettel's Red Bull suffered a spark plug failure, but he missed out on the 2010 World Championship after a strategic blunder in the Abu Dhabi finale. Ferrari built its strategy for that race around covering Mark Webber, who went into the race 8 points behind Alonso. But Webber stopped early after a difficult first stint, with Alonso reacting and leaving the way clear for Sebastian Vettel to steal the title. Alonso spent much of a frustrating race staring at the rear wing of Vitaly Petrol's Renault as the title slipped painfully from his grasp. But a first Ferrari title was only a matter of time. Or so it seemed. With Red Bull mastering exhaust-blown aero in 2011, Ferrari struggled and Alonso took just one victory. Revealingly, this came at Silverstone, where the regulations temporarily changed to mitigate the advantage of exhaust blowing. Arguably, the 2012 season was Alonso's real peak, even though he lost the World Championship to Vettel by 3 points. Alonso hauled a difficult Ferrari that was only the 4th fastest car of the season to 3 victories in what is widely regarded as one of the all-time great championship campaigns. He rates his victory at Valencia that year among his best. Alonso's F1 career then went into terminal decline as he grappled with increasingly uncompetitive machinery. Ferrari started 2013 well, with victories for Alonso in China and Spain, but little did we know at the time that his victory in Barcelona would be his last in F1. An upgrade in Canada didn't deliver the hoped-for performance and set Ferrari back, while the mid-season change in tyre spec mitigated the race day tyre management advantage that was key to those 2 wins, both coming in races where the fronts were the limiting factor. The result was a winless final 3 quarters of the season, public criticism from Alonso, and a deterioration in his relationship with the team. Alonso did stay on for 2014, but Ferrari switched its focus to the new V6 turbo hybrid era too late. He came close to victory in Hungary before finishing second, but was sceptical about Ferrari's leadership and seeking greater personal influence that he was not granted. Perhaps overestimating the strength of his position, Alonso refused to sign a new long-term deal to keep him at Ferrari well beyond the end of his current contract in 2016. Ferrari then signed Sebastian Vettel, available because of a clause in his deal that allowed him to leave Red Bull on the grounds of championship position, and Alonso switched to McLaren Honda rather than continuing with Ferrari in 2015 in the hopes things improved. While necessity played a part in his move, Alonso had also been sold on McLaren's Honda Dream, which quickly turned to nightmare, peaking in his complaints that it was a GP2 engine during the Japanese Grand Prix, before he parked himself in a deck chair at Interlagos after parking his car on track. After a shaky start, things looked up in 2016, with Alonso claiming 2 fifth places. But the high hopes for 2017 backfired with a desultory start to the season and an unreliable, uncompetitive package. Alonso was even allowed to miss the Monaco Grand Prix in favour of an assault on the Indy 500. There, he led 27 laps before retiring with an engine failure. McLaren's forced separation from Honda then led to hopes that a switch to Renault engines would end this nightmare for Alonso. Instead, it proved to be a rude awakening for the team. Alonso was a consistent scorer early in the 2018 season, with his charge to 7th in Azerbaijan in a damaged car one of the greatest race performances of his whole career. But McLaren struggled as the season progressed. The switch to Renault had laid bare McLaren's weaknesses, and Alonso announced he would not race in F1 in 2019. By this time, he was already dovetailing a World Endurance Championship campaign with Toyota, which netted 2 Le Mans 24-hour victories and the title, although he did not close the door entirely on F1. Alonso still hopes to return, but with age against him and no obvious opportunities among the front-running teams, his Formula 1 story might already be over. So there we have it, the highs and lows of Alonso's career, and we want to hear what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, please do give us a like and subscribe to our channel.